Today we have Flynn. She's a social innovator, an international human rights attorney, a writer, a mindfulness and creativity consultant. She's the founder of Mindfulness something at King's College London, and she also has her own social enterprise. Please welcome Flynn.
Are we good to go? As an international human rights attorney, my passion lies with helping empower others, and there's so many who need our help. 85 people now own more wealth than the 3.5 billion poorest people on our planet. Billions lack access to such things as food, clean water, sanitation, electricity, healthcare, education, even having their own voices heard. This is why my passion and my dedication lies with helping to find innovative ways to protect human rights. We must recast and rebuild a better future for so many. However, when I had my own brush with trauma, and suddenly everything I had researched, worked on, studied, and read about was happening to me in terms of pain, stress, and trauma, I came face to face with the reality that we don't save anybody else. As Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, knew well, we're not here on a journey to save the world, but rather to save ourselves. But in doing so, we save the world. The influence of a vital person vitalizes. And thus I propose to rebuild, to recast a better future for humanity. We must first seek to create within ourselves that which we seek to innovate in the world. As Plutarch knew well, what we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. And it's all a matter of perception. So take this rock, for example. What do you see when you see this rock? Is it just a stone, or is it perhaps the first stone of an architectural masterpiece? William Faulkner, in his seminal Nobel Prize acceptance speech, said that a life's work is to create out of the materials of the human spirit something which did not exist before. What will you create out of the bedrock of your human spirit? Because you must first shape in your imagination that which you wish to see in the world. So I propose that the crucial ingredient for changing humanity, for building a better world, lies in starting from the bottom. Do you want to change humanity? Well, then you must first face your own. And one of the best ways to do this is to take your life's challenges, your life's struggles, and turn them into the stuff magic is made of. Turn those challenges into what makes you special, what makes your contribution to the world. So, you're probably all familiar with the story of the writer who was extremely poor and extremely depressed, but she had her imagination, and she had a big book idea, and she did whatever it took to get that book written. And then, when she got it written, as many of you are probably smiling, you know what I'm talking about, it was then rejected 9 times before it was finally accepted. And as the story goes, it was actually a little girl with a big imagination who told her dad, the publisher, to accept it. I'm, of course, talking about J.K. Rowling. Now, the moral of her story is twofold. First, if you want to write a book that literally gets kids reading again, or whatever it is you wish to do, it's all about figuring out and bringing forth what is within you. And second, it's all about how you react to the challenges you face along the way. J.K. Rowling, when she hit her low point, she could have stayed there. She could have given up. Instead, this is exactly what she said at her Stanford commencement speech. She said, rock bottom became the solid foundation upon which she rebuilt her life. And then she set the world on fire with her great idea. So, to design your inner world in conjunction with what you wish to see in the world, it's all about what you do with what you've got. Because what changes humanity, what changes the world, is grit and perseverance, and what you do with those struggles, what you do with what you've got. So, perhaps you've already tried and failed to make a difference. Perhaps you've already tried to do something that you love, to set the world on fire. Perhaps you've risked and lost. Perhaps you've suffered a trauma or a disappointment even. Perhaps that's exactly why you want to change the world. Well, if you failed, well then bravo, because you've already experienced what the most successful people on the planet know to be crucial for transformation. Winston Churchill said that success is actually going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. And if you haven't failed yet, well then you're not risking enough. All the best things in life are risky. If you haven't failed, you aren't innovating. If you haven't failed, you're choosing fear over your greatest potential. So fail doing something that you love. Fail big and fail better. Your greatest ideas will come from this. Through anything I've ever achieved or any privileges I've been lucky enough to have, it's actually been my darkest moments, my most traumatic experiences, the winding curveballs of life that have given me the courage to see what I was made of, to start a social enterprise, to start a human rights NGO, or to help women heal from abuse, or to just follow my heart. The root of the word courage is actually heart. And it's through the pain, and it's through getting vulnerable, really vulnerable, that we find the courage to keep going. We find the resilience, the bravery, and the courage to engineer our strongest foundation, to build our inner foundation, our story, or whichever contribution we wish to make. So, if you hit rock bottom, well then great, stand up, build your inner foundation. And then when you hit a wall, super, build a door. Because this is how we learn to build doors for others. We must first empathize with ourselves if we want to empathize with anybody else. So, if there's something you believe in, something speaks to your heart, some problem you wish to solve, solve it. Find a solution, find one. Fail 10,000 times to find one, Edison style. It's never about being the most original, and it's never about being the best at anything. It's about that courage to look inside yourself and you know that you already have all the tools that it takes to build your dream into a reality. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times. They say 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. In fact, he wasn't even the first inventor of the light bulb. But when he looked inside himself, he knew he was meant to keep trying. He said that with each failure, he was more and more convinced, more and more optimistic that he had found yet another way. It didn't work, thus bringing him closer and closer to his dream, and he loved his dream. And then when he finally did invent the light bulb, he was the one that figured out how to bring it to the market. He loved his work that much. He loved light that much. So he found a way to bring people light. So, what lights you up? What rocks your world? What is your inner version of success and purpose? How do you recast your inner world? Because if you want to change humanity, I'd be willing to bet that what you want to change in the world probably has a whole lot to do with what you want to change in yourself. I'll say that again. I'd be willing to bet that what you want to change in the world probably has a whole lot to do with what you want to change in yourself. So figure out what that is. That's your key to recasting your future. And so then, armed with the willingness to risk, to try, to fail, then as Brené Brown tells us, get in that arena. Dare greatly. Build your own arena. And don't worry about what the critics say, whether they're your own internal voices or others telling you what you should or shouldn't do. You're building something after all. They're the ones in the stands. They're not the ones bleeding and sweating for their purpose. You are building something after all. It may be difficult, but it's worth it because you're worth it. And so is every single person that you're fighting for. And you won't be able to fight for them until you learn to fight for yourself. The tendency is often to think, well, if I only had this degree or this accolade or one more line on my resume, or if I had this job title, or if I looked like this, or if I did this, well then maybe then, armed with my successful future, well then maybe armed with that satisfaction, later on I can contribute to the world, right? But here's the thing, and this is the key, and it's all about mindfulness, is to pay attention, to know, to be aware, to believe, to truly believe that you actually already have all that it takes to build an inner world that you so choose. You create your reality. Babe Ruth said that in his world, every strikeout brought him closer and closer to his next home run. Can you make your failures doing the things that you love your stepping stones to building an inner world that you so choose? Okay, so great. So then what is your version of inner achievement? In a world where we're increasingly habituated to looking at Twitter or Google or our phones, anywhere outward, at celebrities, at television, how can we figure out what our version of success is, our version of purpose is? Well, if you want some practical ways to start figuring this out, think about this. What makes you come alive? What lights you up? If you still can't remember, close your eyes. What made you shine as a child? What is your adventure of a lifetime? What does your masterpiece look like? What makes you feel like you're in that zone, the Mihai Lee, Csikszentmihalyi, that famous positive psychologist calls flow, where you're mindful, you're creative, you're on fire? These are the clues that will help you figure out what your great adventure to help the world will be. Anyone familiar with Joseph Campbell will know about the hero's journey, the monomyth, and how we all have light and darkness inside of us. Is anyone familiar with him? Anyways, it doesn't matter because all the great stories have the same arc. The stories that move us are already written into our DNA, our very humanity. And they're all about the battle between light and darkness. So figure out what your story is. This is how you change the world. You must figure out what your story is, and then you write about it. So there'll be a call to adventure. If you choose to accept it, you'll set out on a journey away from a familiar place you're comfortable with and into a magical place of wonder. You'll meet many challenges along the way. Your greatest enemies and your most powerful allies, and most of all, you'll meet yourself in all your light and darkness. In the final battle, if you choose light and accept your shadow side, then you triumph and you come back to share with the world what you've learned. J.K. Rowling tapped into this humanity when she rebuilt her life from rock bottom. It's what her stories are about too. Mother Teresa said, she alone could not change the world, but she could cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. You will see, if you start following your purpose and your passion, mountains will move and the universe will conspire to help you, and if they don't, move them yourself. Find your inspirational friends, mentors, and support system to help you. And by the way, in your darkest hour, you will truly figure out who your support system is. So again, she alone couldn't change the world, but she could cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. So start aligning with your truth, and again, you will see the mountains will move and the universe will conspire to help you. Because whatever you can envision, you can create. You already have all that it takes within you to build a world of your dreams. So, first you must make your choice. You have the power to help decide if people have enough to eat, or you can help people decide if they want to change their job, or how to help people get happier, or you can help provide rights for people or a chance for them to get educated. But first you must make your own choice. As Mary Oliver, the great poet, said, what will you do with your own wild and precious life? You have the power to decide what your story is like, how your story ends. You get to decide what you architect to leave behind for others when you are gone. So I only have one more question. What will you start building today? Thank you.